If you clicked on this video because you were hoping to see a blitz game, well, guess what? You are in luck. I'm hopping into the 5-minute pool, going up against Surgic 101, and this is going to be my first game of chess for the day. So let's see how it's going to go down. I'm playing the Elephant Gambit. It's back, baby. We're bringing it back. And the reason we got it off, we stopped playing the Elephant Gambit, is because every single game I win with, basically, the same exact trap. And I don't want to just publish the same exact video. We got like 20 to 30 videos that are basically me winning with exactly this opening. And you know what? Let's see if we can do it again. Here we go. Most common move here is knight to c3. Oh! Oh! I've had a very large cough. Knight to c3 for bishop to b5 is most typical here. And I think it's because my kids are back in school. So it's been a very rough week, but I'm trying to keep up with the risk, with the chess. Would love to be able to add some variety, but you know what? If you want to farm an easy chess video, I got one secret. Where better is black? Most common mistake. Also a common mistake. How does white want to handle this? Two very, very common mistakes both lead to very losing positions, actually, for white. The only question is, which blunder are we going to see? It is this one, in fact. So it's here, then takes, because if the queen takes now, we take here, and then our next move is here. And this leads to a very interesting endgame, where white, I think, is actually up a pawn or something. I don't know. I'm not counting the pawns, but I will be having a winning position. Here, the queens will get traded. And I think in my last video, I mentioned that this was a line, but we didn't deep dive into it. So if you're not following all of the Elephant Gambit lore, you gotta watch. There's like 3 lines. He gives up already. There's like 3 lines. So this was winning with all prep with the Elephant Gambit that you really need to know. And this is one of them. And if you don't know the other ones, you know what? Just go back. I'll point them out where they are. And you can watch all of my videos and figure out for yourself. Here we go. Elephant Gambit yet again. And in this position, no matter what my opponent decides to take, I like to play knight to f6, wait for the other thing to get recaptured, and then play queen takes d5. Now you'll see Joe Bava here, he's popping up, he's all over the place. He loves playing this, but on the Lee Chess database, in this position, I, for whatever reason, face d4 almost exclusively. I know there are a lot of people that keep telling me, hey, nobody plays d4, people play knight f3. And if that is the case and you're in this boat, you want to go ahead and develop your pieces like this. Whenever your queen gets attacked, you can swing away, you can castle on the queen side. You can play very aggressively and try to exploit the fact that you have a lead in development. But I almost exclusively see d4, which makes it look like maybe the opponent is threatening bishop to c4. And this is actually one of the important lines. Because after knight to c6, challenging the most active piece that white has, but also attacking the d4 pawn, one of the tricks that you want to know is bishop to c4. This is one of the ones that you almost always will win, because after taking on g2, most opponents don't bail out with queen to f3. If they realize they've made a mistake, they're going to be playing this move, and you're going to be getting a better position here with black. But most of the time, if they've come this far and they've attacked your pawn, they are going to go with this, which leads to a very fascinating and beautiful line that's been explored several times on this channel. I just want to indicate that this, in fact, is insanely winning for black. But more commonly than that, after knight to c6, challenging everything, most opponents will take, you can see this is 53% of the time, if they're not blundering bishop to c4, they're usually playing this line. And then knight to c3, you can see, is 60% of all the games, and computer agrees. White is threatening to play bishop to b5, skewering the queen and the king. You play bishop to b4, making a double attack on this knight. So it seems, since black is just threatening to take, that the most logical way of defending this knight is with bishop to d2, which you see 71% of games. And after they go here, you already have a better position. And the problem is, after you castle, it is not easy to come up with a very natural solution for white, because the next most natural thing that you would want to do in this position is develop your bishop to e2. This is most common, so you can castle. But the problem with bishop to e2, as in yesterday's game, is queen takes g2 with a winning position for black. You're attacking this rook, and you get a winning position because after bishop here, you can combine these moves. The basic idea, just to kind of illustrate it, is that at some point, no matter how you get to this position, you are going to be playing bishop to g4, and this was yesterday's game where you end up getting so much pressure on e3, and there are some very fun and interesting tricks if you guys do want to go back and check that out if you missed it. But today, fortunately, we get to see the other move, because if white doesn't want to go here attempting to castle kingside, because bishop to e2 is met by taking on g2, the alternative, look at just the popularity of both of these moves, is queen to f3. Because the opponent wants to castle on the queen side. If I can't castle king side, I'll go queen side. But this actually loses and walks straight into a losing endgame for the opponents. Now, the move order here is a little bit important, but essentially you're trying to give this check to force the bishop to block. You're trying to remove this knight, and you're trying to put your bishop here so that you can win the piece on e2. So an example of that is rook to e8, and after bishop to e2, now is the opportune moment to remove one of the defenders of the bishop. If you instead decide to go with bishop to g4 first, you're making a very large mistake because you are allowing the queen to trade, and in this position, the knight is defending the e2 square, so this would just simply be a very large blunder. So you remove one of the pieces that is defending, and in this position, the queen needs to stay where she is, because if she takes here, it's the same kind of thing. You are able to take this, and I guess the best move here would be to castle, which hangs a bishop, and everything is kind of falling apart for white. So, because of that, opponents are going to take back. It doesn't really matter. Bishop, pawn. Bishop seems sensible because you're trying to maybe move your king away in some line. They're never going to get a chance, and here you have two amazing solutions. Either you can just take this right away with your rook, something like this, and bishop here, followed by this guy coming in here, is very, very strong for black. But the alternative is to go here, and I do prefer this line just because I've studied it pretty detailed, and I found a good and easy enough way to win. But now after they take here, you don't take back right away. You exploit the fact that you can go here. Now, my opponent resigned fairly early, perhaps not realizing that after he moves his king away, and after I recapture the queen, you do have the opportunity to attack my bishop, which is why you see f3 played regularly, blocking the connection between my rook and the bishop. So for a moment, it's like, okay, white is simply going to be able to get the material back. But here you can play this move. And after this capture, you can take on c2. I think you can also take here. Maybe it's not as good. You can also play here. But you can play this move. And suddenly, there's a lot of problems here for white. Like, for example, rook to e1 is the most common way of continuing. Other opponents will try to protect this pawn with either h3 or pushing the pawn. But after the rook goes here, it's actually very simple. You can take this. The king is not able to take back because then you give this check, and you're going to be able to win the rook in the corner. And if instead the bishop goes here, here's where it gets very elegant. Suddenly you're going to be attacking this pawn. Knight to d5 might also be kind of strong in the same way. But now we're threatening to bring the knight into e3. And after this, it would simply be checkmate. So like if they played h3, which has been played most commonly in the database, we can illustrate this Arabian checkmate. I think that's what it is, right? The rook and knight checkmate? This is an Arabian mate or what? Knight guards the square and guards the rook, and the rook delivers the mate. So other than that, you're kind of in a lot of trouble. If you have to move your bishop somewhere, which is what the computer wants, at minimum, we can start taking, and we're going to be making all sorts of threats around the white king. So this is just simply winning. And if instead you can't go here, you might try h3, but now the knight finds its way into the position, and you're going to start trying to double. You can bring this knight into here. There's all sorts of mating threats, and this is actually just a winning position for black. So if you guys did like this video, please make sure you subscribe for all the future Elephant Gambit videos. Let me know if you still want Elephant Gambits, and I'll see you guys for the next video.